Chapter 2437. The latter originally came to check whether her male identity was real or not, but he didn't expect that she would deliberately bump into him. With a bang, Luo Qingtong's figure was slapped back by Yi Qianxian's palm. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out from the side of the alley. Shao Qi. Yu Xian's figure floated in the dark alley like an immortal. He anxiously appeared beside Luo Qingtong, standing in front of Luo Qingtong and glaring at Yi Qianxian in front of him. Stop. Who are you? Why did you attack Shao Qi? Yu Mingqian's eyes were deep. He stared at the man in front of him, wondering who he was and why he suddenly attacked Luo Shaoqi. Did other people know that the young man had the inscription of God? Or could it be that there was an even more unknown secret on his body? Yu Mingqian's eyes were inexplicable, but the expression on his face was firm and anxious. He stood in front of Luo Qingtong, protecting her behind him. Luo Qingtong's chest was hurt by her own collision. It was not that Yi Qianxian was too strong. On the contrary, the man almost didn't use any strength. He just wanted to check her identity. But damn it. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that although her chest was flattened by the small phantom elixir, Luo Qingtong still felt like her two little white rabbits were patted by Yi Qianxian's palm. It hurt. Luo Qingtong hissed softly. She touched her chest and confirmed that it was flat. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Damn it, she was scared to death. Fortunately, there was no problem with the other party's touch. Otherwise she would have picked up a piece of tofu and killed herself. If she went up and let others find out that she was a woman, how stupid it would be. After Luo Qingtong felt relieved, she found Yu Xian standing in front of her, trembling and glaring at the man opposite him. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed. Why was Yu Xian here? Didn't she ask him to stay in the room? But Luo Qingtong didn't have time to think about it. She got up and pushed Yu Xian aside. Then she rubbed her chest and said to Yi Qianxian opposite her, "Now you believe that I'm a man, right? Go. No matter what your purpose is, I'm not the one you're looking for. If you don't go now, you won't get away so easily." As Luo Qingtong spoke, she scanned the surrounding alleyways. Over there, a group of mercenaries who had been alarmed by her had already appeared. Yi Qianxian's eyes slightly. He looked at her coldly and didn't say anything. Then he turned and left. He could clearly feel that he had hit a flat area with his palm just now. No matter how a person's figure was disguised, the difference between a man and a woman was very obvious. If Luo Qingtong was a woman disguised as a man, Yi Qianxian should have seen through her by now. However, his chest was flat. Plus, there was an Adam's apple on her throat and the birthmark on her face. Yi Qianxian pursed his lips tightly. He couldn't help but believe that he had found the wrong person. Since she wasn't the person he was looking for, there was no need for him to stay here any longer. After Yi Qianxian left, Luo Qingtong let out a heavy sigh. Chapter 2438. Finally she got away with it. The other party was very strong. If he didn't only want to check her identity, she wouldn't have escaped so easily this time. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was very glad that she had made the decision to plan ahead. Otherwise, today's matter would definitely not be settled. And when she exhaled, a group of mercenaries who were alarmed by her rushed over. Little Seven Gongzi. Are you okay? Everyone asked with concern. They were holding weapons in their hands. Some of them didn't even wear shoes. They directly put on a robe and rushed out. Although these mercenaries were more realistic, they still understood the principle of repaying kindness. After there was no conflict of interest with Luo Qingtong, they immediately regarded Luo Qingtong as a member of Mercenary City. And they were willing to do what they could to repay her. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong looked at them and laughed heartily. The other party has been scared away. Thank you. If it weren't for these people, that person wouldn't have left so easily. Luo Qingtong's gratitude was sincere. Everything she had done before had finally paid off. Little Seven Gongzi, you don't have to thank us. We'll wait for you to teach us more practical skills and methods in the future. The group of mercenaries laughed and said. These people were used to the simple and crude method of completing missions with their lives on the line, regardless of wind or rain. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong could actually formulate such a detailed and effective method according to the characteristics of the mission items? They had experimented several times. Now they were all using the method taught by Luo Qingtong, who knew how much damage and casualties were reduced. This was enough for them to be grateful to Luo Qingtong for a lifetime. What was a little help to her? After the group of people confirmed that Luo Qingtong was fine, they sent her and Zhou Xian back to the Red Flame mercenary group. When the people of the Red Flame mercenary group arrived, they were immediately alarmed. When they learned that Luo Qingtong was attacked, their expressions changed. Little Seven, are you all right? Did you see that person's face clearly? Gu Yifeng took a big stride forward and sized up Luo Qingtong. Oh. Luo Qingtong shook her head. At this moment Hu Zhan clenched his fists. It must be those people from the Black Iron mercenary group. Those bastards, it's been so long and they're still thinking about Little Seven. Tomorrow, I will bring my men to the Mercenary Association and teach them a lesson. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard Hu Zhan's words. Why do I feel that the Black Iron mercenary group is so pitiful? They had been wrongly blamed for this. However, Luo Qingtong couldn't reveal her identity. Naturally, she couldn't tell Hu Zhan that she wasn't a member of the Black Iron mercenary group. Forget it, it's just a beating. She would just treat it as the interest of the Black Iron mercenary group when they started causing trouble for her. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she thought of this. However, she also felt a little strange. The man who appeared tonight, she initially thought that he was one of the people from the Black Iron mercenary group. However, the other party's behavior later didn't seem like it. Luo Qingtong frowned. Could it be that other than the Black Iron mercenary group, there were other people secretly searching for her whereabouts? Chapter 2439. But even if she knew that killing him would bring her a lot of trouble, Luo Qingtong didn't regret it. After all, it was very likely that he knew the whereabouts of the divine inscriptions on the 7th floor of the Heavenly Wind Inscription Tower. Compared to the trouble caused by the other party revealing the information, Luo Qingtong would rather kill him and cause some trouble. After all, they weren't on the same level. From the beginning to the end, Luo Qingtong didn't suspect that the person who came to find her might be Yi Qianxian. After all, she didn't expect that Yi Qianxian would appear here and secretly find her. She had changed her identity, changed her gender, and even had a huge birthmark on her face. Before completely confirming her identity, how could Yi Qianxian reveal her identity? The two of them missed each other by a freak combination of factors. While Luo Qingtong was thinking about Yi Qianxian's identity, the man had already returned to his room. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others had been waiting for him. Seeing Yi Qianxian's figure appear, they immediately stood up and looked at him with hopeful eyes. Master, how was it? Their faces were full of expectation. Yi Qianxian looked at their eyes and inexplicably felt a little depressed. He was also very expectant that Luo Qingtong was Luo Xiaoqi. However, it's not her. Yi Qianxian's voice was deep. He took off the mask on his face and threw it on the bed. He walked to the window and looked into the distance. Qingtong, where are you? What? Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others looked at each other. Everyone's eyes were still full of hope, but the light in their eyes slowly dimmed. Luo Xiaoqi was the only person they could find that matched Luo Qingtong's identity, but it wasn't her. Where did the evil doctor go? In the outer realms, powerhouses were as common as clouds. The evil doctor was suddenly brought to the outer realms. They didn't know how she could safely return to the true Spill continent. If anything happened to her, then Master, are you sure you've investigated thoroughly? Bei Qing could not help but ask. He had never doubted Yi Qianxian's words, but when he saw Yi Qianxian's lonely back, he couldn't help but speak up. Bei Qing. Feng Yu shouted in a low voice. How could Master make a mistake? Yi Qianxian hoped that Luo Xiaoqi was an evil doctor more than they did. If he wasn't completely confident, he definitely wouldn't have said that. Furthermore, Feng Yu couldn't bear to speak. When they saw Luo Qingtong from afar, they had already confirmed that her Adam's apple was real. With their eyesight, it was impossible for them to be mistaken. There was also a birthmark on her face. It was just that Yi Qianren wouldn't give up on this unless she personally investigated it. Therefore they did not try to persuade him. At the same time, there was a trace of hope in his heart. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong really had the ability to pass off the fake as the real thing and deceive their eyesight. However, it seemed that they hadn't made a mistake before. This sovereign hit her chest. Yi Qianxian's deep voice drifted in from the window. She is indeed a young man. Let the people of the underground palace investigate other things. In addition, we will leave Mercenary City tomorrow. Yes. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others nodded. Looking at Yi Qianxian's lonely back, They did not disturb him and quietly left. Chapter 2440. Translations, Clop clop clop. In Mercenary City, the extremely muffled sound of horse hooves resounded. Then a group of well-trained and valiant men and horses galloped into Mercenary City. Their figures were vast and mighty, and the aura they exuded as they walked was extremely frightening. Rumble. When these men and horses galloped into Mercenary City, the city gates suddenly opened wide. Then, one after another, the sound of a bell reverberated in the sky above Mercenary City. Clang clang clang. The sound of the bell was followed by the excited voice of the leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group, which echoed in Mercenary City. Mercenaries in the city, please come to the square of the Mercenary Guild. The Tianfeng Chu clan has something to announce. In addition, all the leaders of high-ranking mercenary groups, those who are above the human martial arts realm, immediately come to the hall of the Mercenary Guild. Everyone else, wait in the square of the Mercenary Guild. Hua. Following the announcement of the leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group and the deafening sound of horse hooves, the entire Heavenly Wind Mercenary City fell into an uproar. The Tianfeng Chu clan was one of the top clans in the Heavenly Wind Star Zone. They had more than one high-ranking continent. Almost every outstanding disciple under their command had a high-ranking continent under their name. What kind of concept was that? Owning a high-ranking continent? This not only meant that the people on that continent could live and die in his hands. It also meant that all the resources on that continent would belong to him alone. Using the power of a high-ranking continent to support one person's cultivation. Even if the disciple of the Tianfeng Chu clan was as stupid as a pig, he could still cultivate it. Not to mention those from the Tianfeng Chu clan who could obtain a high-ranking continent from their clan. They were not mediocre at all but geniuses. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Tianfeng Chu clan was. And the Tianfeng Chu clan's strength was not only that, but they were also the domain master clan of the Heavenly Wind domain. Chu Tianyi, the current ruler of the Tianfeng domain, was the head of the Tianfeng Chu family. It hadn't even been 20 years since he took over the position of clan head, and it hadn't even been 10 years since he took over the position of region lord. He was truly a formidable and ambitious person who had single-handedly established the Chu clan's current structure and the world. Now that someone from the Tianfeng Chu clan had appeared here and clearly had something to announce, how could the people of Mercenary City not be shocked? After all, with the strength and status of the Tianfeng Chu clan, why would they need to come to Mercenary City to issue missions? Wouldn't that mean that with a flick of a finger there would be countless people working for them? Not to mention the Tianfeng Chu clan had many subordinate clans and sects under them. How could they as mercenaries work for them? Everyone was in an uproar, but they still followed their curiosity and came to the square of the Mercenary Association. Xianxia and the others were originally preparing to leave Mercenary City today, but the arrival of the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan disrupted their plans. Not only had the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan entered the city, but they had also sealed off the roads at the city gates. It was said that before they finished their announcement, no one in Heavenly Wind Mercenary City was allowed to leave. This decision was abnormally overbearing and unreasonable, causing many people in Mercenary City to complain. Chapter 2441. After all, they still had to leave the city to complete their mission. But the Tianfeng Chu family was powerful. They were far from what the wandering mercenaries in Mercenary City could compare with. With a large number of troops stationed at the city gates, anyone who tried to force their way out would die. The group of mercenaries were angry, but they didn't dare to speak. Although Xianxia and the others could force their way out of Mercenary City, doing so would inevitably cause trouble. If their identities were exposed and they attracted the attention of Sky Capital's people and Sky Capital's emperor, that would be troublesome. As everyone thought this, they suddenly looked at Xianxia. Master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at him inquisitively. Xianxia's face was hidden under the white jade mask, so it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Then let's wait and see, he said. He didn't know why, but he didn't want to leave Mercenary City. That woman wasn't here, so he should leave as soon as possible and go somewhere else to look for her. Otherwise, if she was alone in the starry skies, with a secret that others coveted, and no one by her side to help her, what would happen if she encountered danger? Xianxia was worried. Even though he knew that Luo Qingtong wasn't weak. On the contrary, her personality was cunning, deceitful, and unpredictable. In addition to her elusive abilities, it was difficult for anything to happen to her. But just in case, what if? He had found Luo Qingtong's identity in True Spill Continent. After being together with her, he had never lost contact with her again. One could say that he was worried for nothing or that he was indecisive. As long as it concerned Luo Qingtong, he would never be able to calm down. Unless he stayed as that woman, always looking at her, holding her hand and knowing that she was well. Otherwise, he would never be able to feel at ease. This was probably what people often called the feeling of love and longing, right? Who would have thought that one day he would be so worried about a woman, so worried that he couldn't control himself? In Yi Qianxian's limited 20 years of life, he had never thought of this before. But at this moment, even though he was so anxious and couldn't wait to fly to that woman's side, he couldn't help but feel a little reluctant to leave Mercenary City. Could it be that he was still hoping that woman would come to Mercenary City in the next few days? Yi Qianren's heart was vexed. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. After saying those words, he immediately turned around and left. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they heard his words, and they hurriedly responded to him. They were also very worried that Yi Qianxian would charge through the city gate regardless of the consequences. After all, Master had been in a bad mood since last night after checking whether Luo Shaoqi of the Red Flame Mercenary Group was an evil doctor. Previously he had been looking forward to it, but now his feelings of loss and entanglement were just as depressing and unbearable. They all understood in their hearts. Fortunately, Master was still able to control himself and knew that it was useless to force his way through. It was just a few days later, and it was better than alarming the people of Heaven Capital. But why did the people of Tianfeng Chu's family come to Mercenary City for no reason? As everyone thought of this, they hurriedly followed Yi Qianren's footsteps and returned to the room. In the Mercenary Club, a group of high-ranking mercenary groups and the Black Iron Mercenary Group were looking at an old man sitting in the main seat in front of them. Chapter 2442. The leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group was very flattering. He took a step forward and hurriedly said, "All the leaders of the high-ranking mercenary groups and the experts of the human martial arts realm in Mercenary City are all here. What's the matter? Please tell us." His face was full of flattery. God knew how excited the leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group was when he found out that the Tianfeng Chu family was coming to Mercenary City to ask them to help with something. This was the Tianfeng Chu family. A true giant family in the Tianfeng region. If he could have a relationship with such a family, even if it was just a little bit, he wouldn't have to be a weak mercenary group leader in Mercenary City. Just the name of the Tianfeng Chu family was enough to bring him great benefits. However, it was a pity that this foreign affairs elder sent by the Tianfeng Chu family completely ignored him. Instead, he treated Gu Yifeng and the others differently. It was really infuriating. The leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group was full of depression and hatred towards Gu Yifeng. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been tormented so miserably by that Luo Shaoqi. Their entire Black Iron Mercenary Group was almost pulled down by someone else. Not only that, they were almost disbanded. Those people who listened to Luo Qingtong's explanation came back every day to make trouble for him, the leader, and asked him to apologize to Luo Qingtong. Otherwise they would leave the group. Not only that, those mercenaries who were cheated by him came in groups to make trouble for them. In order to solve the trouble caused by Luo Qingtong's explanation, he almost lost his family fortune, okay? All the resources and rewards that he had plundered over the years were all used up. Not only that, it wasn't enough. It caused him to tighten his belt and desperately look for people to borrow money everywhere, and who knew how much debt he owed. And all of this was because Gu Yifeng and the others protected Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, with the other party's magical appraisal ability, they would be a money tree. Couldn't they move to anywhere? It was really a wave of the hand, and a large amount of money and resources would be in their hands. Unfortunately, Gu Yifeng, that self-proclaimed righteous and principled person, had messed it up. Thinking of this, the Black Iron Mercenary Group's leader felt displeased. If it wasn't for the Tianfeng Chu clan personally calling for all the high-ranking mercenary groups to come, he really didn't want Gu Yifeng and the others to come. While he was feeling frustrated, Elder Fu from the Heavenly Wind Chu clan swept his gaze across the group of mercenaries in front of him. Other than Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan, as well as the leaders of the other high-rank mercenary groups, whom he barely looked up to, the others were all a bunch of trash. Finding such a group of trash to work for the Tianfeng Chu clan was really a disgrace to the Tianfeng Chu clan's reputation. However, things had happened so suddenly that there was nothing he could do. In order to cover up the news and get that thing as soon as possible, they had no choice but to let these mercenaries take action. Thinking of this, Elder Fu frowned and was about to speak. At this moment, his gaze suddenly swept to Luo Qingtong and he said coldly, "Why is such a lowly trash here? Leader of the Black Iron Mercenary Group, what do you think the mission of the Tianfeng Chu clan is?" He clearly said that only the leaders of the high-rank mercenary groups could come in and listen to him talk about the mission. Chapter 2443. Gu Yifeng's and the others' faces instantly changed when they heard Elder Fu's words. Especially Hu Zhan. He was completely enraged. "You old bastard." Before he could finish speaking, he was stopped by Gu Yifeng. "Elder Fu." He looked at Elder Fu with a neither servile nor overbearing expression. "Little Seven is a member of our Red Flame mercenary group. At the same time, she's also a VIP of all the mercenary groups in Mercenary City. Her appearance here is a request from all of us mercenary groups. If you don't think it's appropriate for her to appear here, then there's no need for us to participate in the Tianfeng Chu family's mission. Don't you think so?" As he spoke, his gaze swept across the crowd in Tianfeng Mercenary City. These people had previously said that they wanted Luo Qingtong to come here to participate in the Tianfeng Chu family's meeting. If not for this, why would Luo Qingtong stand here and be humiliated? If they didn't say anything today, Gu Yifeng would immediately leave with Luo Qingtong. As for the Tianfeng Chu family's mission, the Red Flame mercenary group wouldn't participate in it. Could it be that the Heavenly Wind Chu clan dared to force a trade? Gu Yifeng's thoughts were mature. Naturally, he wouldn't watch Luo Qingtong be humiliated. However, the Red Flame mercenary group couldn't easily go against the Tianfeng Chu family's reputation. If Hu Zhan had said those words just now, it would have vented his anger, but the consequences would be unimaginable. It would have even caused more trouble for Luo Qingtong. However, it would be different if all the mercenary groups spoke together. The law couldn't punish the majority. Moreover, the Tianfeng Chu family still needed these mercenary groups to work for them. They wouldn't let all the mercenary groups withdraw. Gu Yifeng's words were to force these mercenary groups to follow suit and stand on Luo Qingtong's side. This would prevent the Tianfeng Chu family from venting their anger on Luo Qingtong. It could be said that Gu Yifeng's idea was extremely good. When the mercenaries heard his words, they couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Indeed, they were the ones who called Luo Qingtong over. They wanted Luo Qingtong to listen to the content of the mission so that she could give them more ideas. Furthermore, the Tianfeng Chu family was actually willing to hand over the mission to their mercenary group. Obviously, this mission was not ordinary. Luo Qingtong's meticulous observation and meticulous planning in Mercenary City had already been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Naturally, everyone wanted her to be their supervisor. However, to everyone's surprise, Elder Fu was so angry at Luo Qingtong's appearance. The group of people wanted to stand up for Luo Qingtong, but they were afraid of offending the Tianfeng Chu family and getting into trouble. But at this time, Gu Yifeng purposely forced them, resolving their worries instead. If they spoke together, the Tianfeng Chu family couldn't possibly wipe them all out, right? With this thought in mind, the group of people immediately said, "Elder Fu Little Seven's ability is indeed extraordinary. We specially invited her here. Yes, Elder Fu Little Seven is our Mercenary City's god of fortune. If you don't let her participate here, we won't dare to accept your mission." Elder Fu's face darkened when he heard their words. God of fortune? Extraordinary ability? Chapter 2444. The other party was merely a youth with an ugly appearance and low strength. Why was it that when they were talking about him, it was as if he was a god? If that was the case, was he blind to not recognize Mount Tai when he spoke against the other party? Elder Fu's expression darkened and he was furious. The members of the Heavenly Wind Chu clan who were standing beside him were also enraged. These people from Mercenary City were just mud that couldn't support a wall. She dared to talk back to Elder Fu for a weak and uncouth young man. The atmosphere between the mercenaries and the people from the Tianfeng Chu clan was tense. At this moment, the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "Hey everyone, why do you have to do this? Elder Fu just doesn't know Luo Xiaoqi's identity. Besides, it's wrong for a weak person like her to be here. You didn't explain it in advance, so of course Elder Fu is angry. Don't you agree, Elder Fu? As he spoke, he looked at Elder Fu with a flattering smile. Elder Fu didn't think highly of him. But now, the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was belittling Luo Qingtong, which meant that he agreed with Elder Fu that Luo Qingtong was a weak piece of trash. This made him feel very comfortable, and he looked at the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group in a different light. That's right. An ugly and weak person. If it weren't for you guys interceding for her, I would have beaten her out of here. You better be telling the truth. Otherwise, Elder Fu snorted and narrowed his eyes. His aura was suddenly released and it was very terrifying. Immediately, the mercenaries were forced to take a few steps back. Everyone's expression changed and they all said that they didn't dare. As for Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan, they rushed to Luo Qingtong's side instantly when Elder Fu's aura exploded. They released their auras and enveloped the young man in front of them. They snorted coldly and retreated with a group of people. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Damn this old bastard. Hu Zhan cursed in his heart. So what if you have strength? Damn it, if they hadn't acted fast enough, Luo Qingtong might have been hurt. He clearly knew that Luo Xiaoqi didn't have any strength, yet he still deliberately released his aura to suppress her. Hu Zhan didn't believe that he didn't do it on purpose. Damn it. If not for Gu Yifeng holding him back, he would have already rushed out. Big brother, let's not participate in this troublesome mission. *CK These Tianfeng Chu people are willing to work for us. It's definitely not a good thing. Let's just reject it. At least little Seven won't be humiliated like this. Hu Zhan angrily whispered into Gu Yifeng's ear. Before Elder Fu could say anything, Elder Fu looked over at them. You can choose not to participate. But this kid has to stay. As he spoke, he pointed at Luo Qingtong. Seeing this, Hu Zhan was enraged. Why? This old bastard is going to fight Luo Xiaoqi, right? How shameless. Hu Zhan was about to explode from anger. Based on what you said just now. Elder Fu sneered. Didn't you say that she's a goddess of fortune? What ability does she have? Why did you have to bring her here? Chapter 2445. Elder Fu couldn't take it lying down. All the mercenaries spoke up for Luo Qingtong. As a member of the Tianfeng Chu family, no one dared to disrespect him like this. Although he could swallow his anger in order to let these mercenaries take the mission, he didn't want to let go of Luo Qingtong, the culprit. He had thought highly of Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan. But they actually went against him for Luo Xiaoqi. Elder Fu didn't like them at all. They didn't want to take the mission, but Luo Xiaoqi had to stay. And the mercenaries didn't want Luo Qingtong to leave either. What a joke. They even offended the Tianfeng Chu family for Luo Xiaoqi. Instead, they let the Black Iron mercenary group take the lead. If Luo Qingtong left with Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan, what would they do? Without Luo Qingtong as the backbone of the team, they were terrified. No, Hu Zhan, don't be so impulsive. That's right. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for us. If Xiaoqi leaves, what should we do? You Red Flame mercenary group can't be so disloyal. They all talked at once, which made Hu Zhan choke with anger. Couldn't these idiots see that Elder Fu was trying to get rid of Luo Xiaoqi? Just as he was about to open his mouth in anger, Gu Yifeng pressed down on his shoulder and suppressed him. Don't be impulsive. If we go against the Tianfeng Chu family, it won't be good for Luo Xiaoqi and us. He glanced at Elder Fu and the members of the Tianfeng Chu family behind him and said. Gu Yifeng knew it very well. If they didn't take the mission, it wouldn't do them any good. Not to mention that Elder Fu didn't allow Luo Qingtong to leave. Even if he did, Gu Yifeng wouldn't quit the mission. Because if they quit the mission, they and Luo Qingtong would be even less safe. On the contrary, they were together with the people from Mercenary City, advancing and retreating together. Only then would those people from the Tianfeng Chu clan not dare to make a move secretly. When Hu Zhan first spoke, Gu Yifeng wasn't prepared to agree. Gu Yifeng felt helpless in his heart. This fellow's brain was lacking a few tendons. His thinking was too simple. Luo Qingtong also wanted to hold Tiger Zhan down. What Gu Yifeng could think of, she could naturally think of as well. However, since Gu Yifeng had already made his move, she did not make another move. She merely smiled and said, Big brother Hu Zhan was just joking. It's impossible for us, the Red Flame mercenary group, to withdraw from the mission. After all, It's our honor to be able to help the Tianfeng Chu family. Don't you agree, Elder Fu? She looked at him with a smile. She remembered everything that Elder Fu said to her just now. When the mission started, there would be plenty of opportunities for revenge. Why should she be in a hurry? She was looking forward to finding out what the mission was that could make the people from the Tianfeng Chu family come to Mercenary City to work for them. It must be very complicated. If anything unexpected happened during this mission, then she could not be blamed. Wasn't that the case? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and gently caressed her wrist. The smile on her face became even more innocent, as if she didn't take Elder Fu's words to heart. Humph. Seeing her expression, Elder Fu snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Gu Yifeng and the others weren't weak. In the current situation, one more helping hand meant one more chance. He didn't need to waste Gu Yifeng and the others' help for an ugly, vulgar and weak young man. Otherwise, why would he tolerate Hu Zhan's impudence? He would have kicked him out long ago. Since that's the case, let's talk about the mission. As he spoke, he slowly opened his mouth and explained the mission one by one. Following his voice, the crowd's expressions immediately changed. Chapter 2446. Tianluo Grass? Luo Qingtong's eyes sparkled. She fixed her gaze on Elder Fu. The people around her were also breathing heavily, as if they were unable to control themselves. It wasn't that the mercenaries lacked self-control, but the news that Elder Fu told them was too shocking. It was no wonder that after they had summoned the people of Mercenary City, they had only sent the experts and managers of the high-ranked mercenary groups. It wasn't that they were arrogant, but that there was more to this mission. And it was extremely shocking. That's right, Tianluo Grass. Elder Fu's face was filled with pride and arrogance when he saw the shocked expressions on the mercenaries' faces. Humph, these vulgar people from Mercenary City. If it weren't for this special situation, why would the Tianfeng Chu clan need to come to Mercenary City to find people? Elder Fu's eyes darkened. I don't think I need to explain more about this Tianluo grass. This is a peerless immortal herb that can only be formed after being nurtured by Khanate Qi and the Great Tao. It usually only forms when the heart of a high-ranking continent transforms. It's extremely rare for the heart of a high-ranking continent to transform. It usually only transforms when a high-ranking continent is on the verge of destruction. Once the heart of a continent transforms successfully, the high-ranking continent will be able to continue its life. If it doesn't, the high-ranking continent will be completely destroyed. This Tianluo grass is formed when the heart of a continent transforms. There are countless hearts of continents in the world that transforms when the time comes, but only a few can form a peerless immortal herb like the Tianluo grass. This Tianluo grass can not only help a person obtain an immortal spiritual body, but it can also transform a person overnight. Even an idiot, a person as stupid as a pig after touching this heaven-sifting grass, would immediately transform into a mortal body and achieve an immortal spirit body. At the same time, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds, and they will directly enter the venerable realm. If someone above the venerable realm obtains it, their strength will also increase by a whole realm. At the same time, whether it's advancing to the human martial realm or the human martial realm, there won't be any obstacles. This peerless immortal herb is the reason why we're here to issue this mission. The mercenaries swallowed their saliva when they heard Elder Fu's words. The ability to break through a whole realm aside, the immortal spiritual body alone was enough to drive them crazy. The immortal spiritual body. What was the goal of all these cultivators to go against the heavens? It wasn't for supreme power but for the great Tao of heaven and earth. The immortal spiritual qi was a threshold to the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was the martial artists when they cultivated to the venerable realm. This was because the introduction of the immortal qi was a huge test for them. From the body to the soul, everything had to undergo a metamorphosis. Not only that, it was not easy for them to absorb and refine the immortal qi. Every wisp of immortal energy had to go through layers of refinement and extraction before they could obtain a tiny bit of energy to strengthen and fill their meridians. Under such circumstances, they did not know how long they would have to cultivate for before they could absorb enough energy for their own advancement. Chapter 2447. The law of heaven and earth contained in it was even more complicated and profound. It could be said that every step was arduous and difficult. Every expert who could cultivate to the venerable realm and above had endured for an unknown amount of time. Of course, There were those who were extremely talented and took much less time to cultivate than others, but they still managed to reach their current level. However, the immortal spiritual body was different. If one attained the immortal spiritual body, they would naturally be able to absorb immortal spiritual qi. This powerful aura, which was even more powerful than spiritual qi, was as simple as eating and drinking in front of the immortal spiritual body. One could easily refine the power and law of heaven and earth from the immortal spiritual qi. Therefore, no one would not be tempted by the news of the Tianluo grass. However, the group of mercenaries were not fools. Why would the Tianfeng Chu clan leak the news of such an immortal herb? Why would they let them complete the mission? Were they not afraid that they would take it for themselves? After all, no one could resist the temptation of the Tianluo grass. The group of mercenaries was very confused. The leader of a high-ranking mercenary group directly asked the question. If you can get the Tianluo grass, then it's your ability. But is it so easy to get such a peerless immortal herb? Elder Fu's face was full of disdain when he heard the leader's question. If it was so easy to get the Tianluo grass, why would he come to these mercenaries? Did he think that the Tianfeng Chu clan had no one else? If the strength of these itinerant cultivators and mercenaries were to be displayed, the disciples of the Tianfeng Chu clan's branch families would be able to kill them in an instant with the help of their cultivation methods and weapons, even if their cultivation levels were much lower than theirs. If it weren't for the special circumstances, why would they come to these trash? These mercenaries might not think too highly of themselves. Elder Fu's face was full of disdain. His words also made the mercenaries very embarrassed. Guifeng and Huzhan were the same. These mercenaries were all self-taught geniuses. They relied on their courage, stumbling, and relying on their talent and perseverance to forcefully kill their way out of this cold-blooded and merciless heavenly Tao. Their strength was indeed inferior to those disciples who came from large sects and factions. Because they didn't have a systematic learning system, they didn't have powerful cultivation techniques, and they didn't have any elders who could teach them and point out their cultivation mistakes. Everything they relied on was their own lives and their courage to not be afraid of death. What right did Elder Fu have to look down on them? If they had been born in a big family or even an ordinary family or sect, they wouldn't have been afraid of Elder Fu at all. In terms of willpower and talent, even the disciples of the 10 great clans might not be able to compete with them. After all, for the mercenaries who had risen from humble beginnings to their current strength, which one of them had talent and strength that was inferior to the disciples of the big families? They just didn't have the resources and background of the disciples of the big clans. In this world, what mattered was not talent and strength but resources. Everyone was sad. They didn't want to accept Elder Fu's disdain, but they couldn't refute him. They were angry but didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 2448. However, that place doesn't belong to the Tianfeng domain. Do you understand now? That place belongs to another star area, a 6-star area called the Flying Star Area. That abandoned high-level continent is right at the edge of the Flying Star Area. The experts of the Tianfeng Chu clan can't take it by themselves, so we need your help. Elder Fu's voice was cold. If the disciple of the Tianfeng Chu clan hadn't been discovered by others when he found the Tianfeng grass, they wouldn't have been in such a passive position. Now, another family in the Flying Star Area had also learned about the Tianfeng grass. In order to prevent this information from being leaked, they had tacitly kept it a secret. But at the same time, in order to compete for the ownership of the Tianfeng grass, they made an agreement with each other. That was to let the juniors of their clans fight for the Tianfeng grass. But because of the danger of the Tianfeng grass, they couldn't let the juniors go alone. But if they sent the experts of their clans to guard it, they were worried that the other party would do something to it. Therefore, they made an agreement to hire mercenaries. They would swear to the heavens and earth that these mercenaries weren't their men. Otherwise, they would die on the spot. After the oath, the fight would begin. No matter which family got the Tianfeng grass, the other family wouldn't be able to stop them. Therefore, Elder Fu wasn't worried that someone among the mercenaries would take the Tianfeng grass for himself. How capable was the other party to escape from the pursuit of the two families? Not to mention that the experts of the various clans would be guarding the Forsaken Continent. If the other party could get the Tianfeng grass and escape from their pursuit, they would accept it. After Elder Fu finished speaking, they finally understood what was going on. So that's how it is. The high-class continent discovered by the Heavenly Wind Chu clan was not in the Heavenly Wind region? No wonder they asked them to take action. If that was the case, everything made sense. After all, the fewer people who knew about the Tianfeng grass, the better. Although the Tianfeng Chu clan was powerful, there might be other families in the Tianfeng domain that could compete with them. The Tianfeng grass was in the Flying Star area, which was not related to them. If they went there with great fanfare and were discovered by others, they would be in trouble. Moreover, it was easy to attract the attention of other aristocratic families. After all, a stalk of Skynet grass was already sufficient to create an extremely valiant genius disciple. Entering the venerable realm overnight was equivalent to many years of bitter cultivation. Not to mention a physique like the immortal spiritual body, who knew how many people coveted it. In the future, when he cultivated, it would be so difficult. It was unknown how many times faster his strength would advance compared to others. Furthermore, it didn't affect his strength at all. His foundation was still as solid as ever. It's like using a powerful pump to suck up water. You can't say that the quality of the water it absorbs isn't good just because it absorbs water faster and more, right? Wasn't it still the same water? But the time it takes to fill up the pool is faster and stronger than you. Everyone thought so and sighed in their hearts. Unfortunately, the heavenly luo grass was not theirs. All right. Everyone nodded in agreement. If that was the case, they had no reason to refuse. The reward given by the Tianfeng Chu family was also very generous. Chapter 2449. The Tianfeng Chu family would even give them some of the cultivation methods and secret manuals that they had given to their affiliated families. Of course, even if they didn't complete the mission, the Tianfeng Chu family wouldn't treat them badly. They would still be rewarded. But they wouldn't be as generous as completing the mission. Everyone was very excited when they heard that. Especially when they heard about the cultivation methods and secret manuals, they couldn't help but feel excited. After all, mercenaries who had been through a lot of bloodshed lacked cultivation methods and secret manuals the most, as well as cultivation experience. When they heard that the Tianfeng Chu family would provide them with these, they were as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan didn't think there was anything wrong with such a mission. Even the rewards of the mission were much better than what they usually received. It was worth it. But they were very worried about Luo Qingtong. If they had known that the Tianfeng Chu family wanted them to fight for the Tianluo grass, they would have objected to Luo Qingtong staying. Now that Elder Fu had forced her to participate in the mission, what should they do? Although the young man's ability was powerful, her strength was too weak. She was only at the peak of the Holy Venerable Realm. She was at the bottom of the mercenaries. After all, even the weakest mercenary among them was at the Green Venerable Realm. The two of them were very worried. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, was very happy. Tianluo grass? This is a rare opportunity. I didn't expect the Tianfeng Chu family to come here with this mission. Luo Qingtong's eyes were faintly shining with a demonic bloody light. That was the expression of her excitement. Soon the light disappeared. Luo Qingtong didn't expect to encounter such a good thing when she was about to leave Mercenary City in 2 days. She didn't care about the Tianluo grass, which could help her achieve the immortal spiritual body. Instead, she valued its effect of achieving the Venerable Realm overnight. Luo Qingtong had advanced to the Holy Venerate Realm so far. It was unknown whether it was because she had absorbed Xiao Tuanzi's power and aura, or because she had advanced too quickly. In short, no matter how hard she tried, she was always one step away from breaking through. The Venerable Realm was right in front of him, but the barrier could be touched and seen. But it just couldn't be broken. It was so hard that it made people feel stifled. Luo Qingtong made a careful calculation. If she were to follow the normal speed of absorbing spiritual energy, she would have to wait a few years before she could break through the barrier of the Venerable Realm. Otherwise, she would have to wait until Xiao Tuanzi woke up to ask it what was going on. But now, neither of these were easy to achieve. Now the appearance of the Tianfeng Chu family had solved her problem. That sky luo grass, if she could obtain it. Luo Qingtong's lips curved up slightly. She looked at Elder Fu's arrogant face and smiled without saying a word. Right at this moment, the voices of Gu Yifeng and the others suddenly rang out. Elder Fu, this matter is really too dangerous. We are willing to do anything for you, but can you give Little Seven a way out and not participate in this mission? Pfft. Hearing Gu Yifeng's words, Luo Qingtong almost choked on her own saliva. Brother Gu? She turned to look at Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan, and her lips twitched slightly. Can't be, right? Gu Yifeng and the others must not cause trouble. She knew they cared about her. Chapter 2450. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan each pressed her shoulders. Xiaoqi, don't speak. Let us handle this. If we let you do this, it'll be over. Luo Qingtong stared at Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan, who were staring at Elder Fu waiting for him to speak. Now she could only hope that Elder Fu would be a little more helpful. Don't agree so easily. Please despise me as much as you can. Perhaps Elder Fu had heard her inner cry. He glanced at her and Gu Yifeng with a smug look and snorted. What do you think the mission of the Tianfengchu clan is? Since you wanted to come, then you can't leave now. With that he flicked his sleeves and left. Luo Xiaoqi had such a great influence on Gu Yifeng and the others. How could he let her leave alone? What's more, didn't Gu Yifeng and the others just embarrass him for Luo Xiaoqi? Elder Fu deliberately asked Luo Qingtong to stay just to see Gu Yifeng and the others' annoyed and regretful expressions. He was very pleased with himself. But he didn't know that Luo Qingtong was giving him a thumbs up in her heart. Good job. Old man, you're pretty awesome. Ahem. Luo Qingtong coughed softly and looked at Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan. It's okay, brother Gu, brother Hu Zhan. I'll go with you. It won't be dangerous. Besides, everyone will protect me. Is that so? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the mercenaries not far away. Yes. Everyone looked at Gu Yifeng and Hu Zhan as if they were going to eat them. How could they dare to stay any longer? After nodding his head, he ran out like a wisp of smoke. Not to mention anything else, they still had to explain the mission to the people in the square. The Tianfengchu clan's conditions were so generous. Coupled with the allure of the resources in the high-class continent, everyone was very satisfied with this mission. The only downside was that they had involved Luo Qingtong this time, causing her to have to go on a mission with them. But weren't Gu Yifeng and the rest also involved in this matter? It wasn't like they were the only ones speaking up for Luo Qingtong. The two of them had spoken up as well. Moreover, if Gu Yifeng hadn't provoked them first and forced them to speak, they wouldn't have stood up at that time. The group of people ran away like a wisp of smoke. Even the leader of the Black Iron mercenary group slowly led his men away. He was waiting to see how unlucky Luo Xiaoqi would be after going to that abandoned continent with them. He might not even survive the first day. Fight with him. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group was in a good mood. He didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would have such benefits after being invited by those mercenary groups. Not only did he show his face in front of Old Fu, but he also talked to him. And Luo Qingtong was forced to go to that abandoned continent. He didn't have to do it himself. The other party might not be able to come out alive. It was really refreshing. The leader of the Black Iron mercenary group leisurely walked away. Before he left, he glanced at Luo Qingtong, Gu Yifeng and the others proudly. Hu Zhan was so angry that his teeth itched. He almost beat him up but was stopped by Luo Qingtong. Big brother Hu Zhan, don't mind them. Let's go back. I have something good to show you. Luo Qingtong thought for a long time. This time, with her strength and her blood eyes, she might not have an accident on the abandoned continent. Chapter 2451. She originally planned to write down the Immortal secret manuals in her mind after leaving Mercenary City and give some to Hu Zhan and the others for them to cultivate. At that time, when their foundation was sufficient, Hu Zhan and the others' strength would also be greatly improved. After all, Hu Zhan and the others only lacked a little bit of foundation and resources compared to the children of those big families. And among them, foundation was the most important. Hu Zhan and the others could earn resources by themselves. With foundation, what resources couldn't they want to improve their strength? But without foundation, Hu Zhan and the others couldn't go to other places to get those cultivation methods and secret manuals. Ordinary cultivation methods and secret manuals, as long as they were good, were the treasures of the big families and sections. If Hu Zhan and the others didn't join those sects and families, they wouldn't be able to get them at all. Even if they were lucky enough to get them once they revealed it after cultivating and were found out by others, it would be a dead end. But the cultivation methods and secret manuals that Luo Qingtong taught them were different. They were engraved by her from those cultivation sects on Earth. In this different world, they were unique and weren't afraid of being found out at all. During this period of time, Hu Zhan, Gu Yifeng and the others took good care of her. Logically speaking, Luo Qingtong couldn't just watch them make a move. What's more, These cultivation methods and secret manuals were the reward she wanted to repay them from the beginning. Luo Qingtong thought and immediately brought Hu Zhan and Gu Yifeng back to the Red Flame mercenary group's encampment. The latter and the others were confused for a while. Ouyang Yingyu and the others were still waiting for news in the square outside. Seeing a group of high-ranking mercenary groups come out in high spirits, they thought they had encountered such a good thing. But looking at Hu Zhan and Gu Yifeng's sad expressions, they felt that something was wrong. What's going on? Are you all crying at a funeral? Ouyang Yingyu looked at Hu Zhan and Gu Yifeng with a strange expression. Hu Zhan was fine, this guy was born with a screw loose in his head. But what was going on with Gu Yifeng? Their leader had always been the most calm. Everyone stared at the two of them. Hu Zhan looked at them and was about to speak. On the other side, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded in their ears. Brother Gu, this is for you. After Luo Qingtong returned to the Red Flame mercenary group's encampment, she started to spread out the rice paper and started to write. Her background was too complicated and it wasn't convenient for her to tell Gu Yifeng and the others, so she directly wrote down the cultivation techniques and secret manuals that she had prepared for them. Her blood-red pupils spun rapidly. Luo Qingtong copied all the mysterious methods and matters of cultivation in those secret manuals on white paper. In just a short while there were several cultivation methods, secret manuals and martial skills piled up beside her. Luo Qingtong handed these cultivation methods and martial skills to Gu Yifeng and the others. The latter and the others were still blaming themselves. Just as he was about to ask her what it was, he suddenly froze. This is... Gu Yifeng's voice trembled. He looked at the books that Luo Qingtong had just written, and there was still ink on the paper. His heart was filled with indescribable shock and excitement. Little Seven, we are sorry. Hu Zhan also came over at this time wanting to apologize to Luo Qingtong. However, when he came in front of Gu Yifeng, his eyes widened in an instant. Chapter 2452. Oh my God. He pinched his thigh fiercely and after a heart-wrenching pain for a while, he finally believed that everything in front of him was not a dream but real. Oh my God. These martial arts manuals are all real? Hu Zhan looked at the martial arts manuals handed over by Luo Qingtong and laughed dryly. He almost wanted to ask Luo Qingtong if she wrote them casually for fun. However, before he could say anything, he slapped himself and woke himself up. What the hell was she writing casually? If she hadn't already memorized them by heart, even if she flew, she wouldn't have been able to recite all these martial arts manuals. The only explanation was that these martial arts manuals were all real. Moreover, Luo Qingtong knew how to use them all. Therefore she was able to write them down from memory for them. Golden Sword Chop. World Return to One Technique. Mandarin Duck Twin Sword. No Heart and No Nonsense Technique. One by one the names of the martial arts manuals jumped into Hu Zhan's eyes. All of them were martial arts manuals and names that he had never heard of before. Moreover, the cultivation levels indicated on these martial arts manuals were all above the Venerable realm. There were even some in the human martial arts realm and the earth martial arts realm. Naturally, this was automatically calculated by Luo Qingtong according to the cultivation levels in this strange world. After all, the immortal cultivation manuals on Earth and the cultivation system in this strange world were completely different. Luo Qingtong carefully estimated the power and effect of those martial arts manuals and marked them with their respective cultivation levels. She only took out 2 martial arts manuals of the Earth martial arts realm. With Hu Zhan and Gu Yifeng's current strength, the first to enter the Earth martial arts realm would definitely be the two of them. Under such circumstances, 2 martial arts manuals were enough. Too many would be useless. Moreover, in the future, if the people of the Red Flame mercenary group didn't change their original intentions, Luo Qingtong would naturally give them more benefits. In this life, she wasn't afraid of giving benefits to others. But she was afraid of giving benefits to the wrong people. Therefore, no matter what Luo Qingtong did, she would always leave some leeway. Gu Yifeng, Hu Zhan, and the others were loyal to her, so she naturally wouldn't be stingy with good things. In this world, if you want something, you have to exchange it with something. If you don't have anything, you can only use your heart and feelings. After all, it was impossible for him to not pay a price. They were both human beings for the first time. Why should she give whatever she had to the other party unconditionally? Sorry, but if she didn't like people, then she wouldn't give it to them. Hu Zhan's shocked attitude attracted the curiosity of Ouyang Yingyu and the others. The latter stood up and walked over. What are you two doing? With all this commotion, people who don't know would think that you guys picked it up. Where are the treasures? Ouyang Inyu's words were stuck in her mouth, but it was too late to say them out loud. She looked at the stack of secret manuals that Luo Qingtong took out in front of her in shock. She was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. Wait, I think I'm dreaming. Ouyang Inyu raised her hand and covered her forehead and eyes in front of everyone's puzzled eyes. About 2 seconds later, a sharp, ear-piercing and shocking female voice resounded in the hall. Quick, quick, quick. Quickly cover my mouth. Ouyang Inyu was going crazy. It's true. Damn. In front of Luo Qingtong, there really was a pile of secret manuals and martial arts manuals. Chapter 2453. Especially the leader, who was usually such a quiet and solemn person. She was so shocked that her mouth couldn't close. How long had it been like this? And that bastard Zhou Xian, the floor under his feet was about to collapse. Couldn't he use a little less strength? Asking someone to fix it costs money. As Ouyang Inyu thought about it, she screamed and asked the people around her to quickly cover her mouth. Her screams couldn't be stopped. When Ouyang Inyu screamed, the other members of the Red Flame mercenary group were all shocked and gathered around. Then each of them had a look of excitement, shock and disbelief. Oh my God. Martial arts. Secret manuals. Martial arts. They only saw it from afar at the auction and could only buy the lowest quality goods at the highest price, but it appeared in front of them. The group of people from the Red Flame mercenary group were shocked to the extreme, their faces all flushed red. Quick. Close the door of the hall first. Gu Yifeng was the first to come back to his senses, and then he said to the 2 members of the Red Flame mercenary group who were closest to him. The 2 of them seemed to have woken up from a dream, and immediately ran to the door and slammed it shut. Oh my God. Everyone's heart was beating so fast that it was about to jump out. It was really 2F*King exciting. This was definitely the most exciting and shocking day they had ever experienced. Little 7. Gu Yifeng raised his hand and pressed on Luo Qingtong's shoulder, pushing her to sit on the stool next to the table. His heart was full of excitement, and the fingers that pressed on Luo Qingtong were faintly trembling. Little 7. He took a deep breath and tried to stabilize his voice and said to Luo Qingtong, "These martial arts and secret manuals, where did you get them?" He took a deep breath and said, "Are you a young master who ran out from some big family to gain experience? These martial arts and secret manuals are all in your family?" Luo Qingtong was stunned when she heard his words. When she took out these martial arts and secret manuals, she knew that Gu Yifeng and the others would guess her identity. She was also wondering if she should tell them the truth. But after thinking about it, she decided not to. She was in danger now, and it would be fine if Gu Yifeng and the others didn't know, but if they knew, it might harm them. Therefore Luo Qingtong was thinking about how to tell them. But who would have thought that before she could say anything, Gu Yifeng had already found an identity and reason for her. A young master from a big family? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. For a moment she didn't know how to answer them. Forget it, they've misunderstood. Forget it then. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she stopped talking. And Gu Yifeng and the others Luo Sti. God, T. Teet. You look so smart, but you don't seem to know anything about the outside world. Of course she didn't know. Luo Qingtong complained in her heart. She was suddenly sent to Tianfeng region and she was very curious about everything in this region, okay? As for those abilities, she couldn't possibly not reveal anything, right? Otherwise, how could she earn money to gather information? Chapter 2454. The latter was still excitedly asking her, "Hey Xiaoqi, which family are you from? There's no super family with the surname Luo in this Tianfeng domain." Zhou Xian's idea was very simple. Luo Qingtong was able to take out these secret manuals, in addition to her ability and shrewdness. The young man's family must be extraordinary. But in this Tianfeng domain he didn't seem to have heard of such a family. Luo Qingtong's expression froze. Just as she was thinking about how to cover up this lie, Ouyang Inyu scolded Zhou Xian, "Aren't you annoying? Xiaoqi originally escaped from her family. Who knows how her dog family treats her? Maybe not at all. Xiaoqi must have changed her surname. Or she doesn't want to talk about that family at all. Don't mention it." Gu Yifeng also had this intention, but with his identity he couldn't say anything to Hu Zhan. Ouyang Yinyu's words made him feel a lot better. That's right. He looked at Luo Qingtong softly and said, if Xiaoqi doesn't want to say it, then forget it. We won't force you. It's just that. He looked at the secret manuals in his hand and said in a deep voice, we can't accept these secret manuals. Xiaoqi, are these your family's treasures? You'd better take them all back. Otherwise, when you're discovered in the future, you'll suffer. Gu Yifeng was very touched by Luo Qingtong's action of taking out these secret manuals for them. The young man's temperament was pure and sincere. He was not only guarded against others, but also extremely pure and kind. This kind of secret manual was actually given to them to use. But because of this, Gu Yifeng and the others couldn't accept his secret manuals. Otherwise, once they were discovered, they could escape. But what about Luo Qingtong? If she was caught and brought back to the family, what kind of punishment would she receive? Gu Yifeng didn't dare to imagine. Historically, people who betrayed their family didn't have a good ending. Therefore, even if Gu Yifeng and the others wanted these secret manuals, they couldn't accept them. Otherwise, he would be harming Luo Qingtong. As soon as Gu Yifeng's words left his mouth, Ouyang Yingyu, Hu Zhan, and the others seemed to have thought of the same thing. The light in their eyes dimmed, and they immediately restrained the joyous and shocked expressions on their faces. They hurriedly said, that's right. Little Seven, take back all these cultivation methods and manuals. We can't accept it. When everyone spoke, even Hu Zhan hurriedly put back the secret manual in his hand. He pushed it in front of Luo Qingtong and urged, that's right, Little Seven, quickly take this thing back. Luo Qingtong looked at them and her heart felt even more at ease. She had not misjudged him. Even when these secret manuals were delivered to them, they could resist the urge to take them. It could be seen that he really cared about her and was genuinely concerned about her safety. Luo Qingtong thought and suddenly smiled, Big brother Gu, big brother Hu Zhan, big sister Yingyu, you don't have to worry. I obtained all of these secret manuals by accident. They don't belong to any family or family. You can rest assured. Nothing will happen. My family members also don't know. At this point, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly. She thought of the dog family that Hu Zhan had just mentioned. The expression on her face was simply indescribable. Chapter 2455. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she suddenly smiled. When Hu Zhan and the others heard her words, they were stunned. Their eyes, which had dimmed down, suddenly lit up. Really? Hu Zhan, the uncouth man, jumped up immediately. He grabbed Luo Qingtong with an excited expression and shook her fiercely. Little Seven, you can't lie to me. No, I swear to the heavens that this secret cultivation method has nothing to do with any of the sects or families here. Luo Qingtong's voice was sly, and she deliberately made some changes to the word here. Originally, these secret cultivation method books were not from this world. She was not wrong in saying so. Hu Zhan, Ouyang Yingyu and the others heard this and immediately jumped up in joy. Gu Yifeng also had a smile on his face. Luo Qingtong looked at them and quickly said, But big brother Gu, if you get this secret cultivation method book, you must not tell others where it came from. Father's ask, just say that you got it by luck. When Luo Qingtong said this, Hu Zhan and the others immediately nodded and said, Don't worry, Little Seven, we know what to say. Everyone naturally knew that Luo Qingtong wanted to hide her identity. They thought that Luo Qingtong did not want to be caught by the family, so she said this. But only Luo Qingtong knew that this was to protect their safety. Not revealing the origin of these cultivation methods and secret manuals would be of great benefit to both of them. Otherwise, it was hard to say when someone would deliberately come to investigate her. Especially those black-clothed men. Speaking of those people, Luo Qingtong also thought of the strange man who patted her chest that night. Who was that person? Was he one of those black-clothed men? While Luo Qingtong was thinking in her heart, in another part of Mercenary City, Yu Mingqian, who had changed into another set of clothes and was covered in a black cloak, looked coldly at the black-clothed man kneeling in front of him. Can't find out? His voice was icy cold. The man who appeared outside Luo Qingtong's room that day was very mysterious. It seemed that he was there for Luo Xiaoqi's identity. He didn't know what he was trying to confirm. Could it be that someone else had already found out about Chen Meng and the things he knew behind the scenes? However, if that was the case, it was impossible for foster father to not mention it to him. After all, they still had to rely on him to find out who was behind Chen Meng. As Yu Mingqian thought of this, her eyes narrowed. Please forgive me, master. That person's strength is very high. After we followed him, we all lost him. That night, Yi Qianxian came to investigate Luo Qingtong's identity. When he left, Yu Mingqian had her people follow him. He didn't expect that he couldn't find any trace of the other party. Furthermore, the other party's strength was so strong that he was able to silently shake off the people around him. Yu Mingqian frowned. At this moment, the black-clothed man gathered his courage and said, Master, there is a letter from the Central Inscription Association urging you to go back quickly. You see, after Yu Mingqian found out Luo Qingtong's identity, he didn't report it. Instead, he killed all the people around him who had objections to him. Now the Central Inscription Association's people had become suspicious and were urging him to go back. After all, he had already lost the person. Why would Yu Mingqian stay outside? Yu Mingqian naturally knew the true meaning of the Central Inscription Association's urging. Chapter 2456. Oh, you're really afraid that I'll find out what's hidden behind it? Yu Mingqian sneered, his face full of mockery. He had only agreed to hunt down Chen Meng on a whim. He didn't expect his foster father to be so nervous. When he realized that he couldn't catch him, he immediately called him back. Yu Mingqian suspected that his previous guess was right. In fact, when he was in Tianfeng Inscription City, he had the chance to capture Chen Meng alive. But at that time he had doubts in his heart. In addition, he was interested in Luo Qingtong, so he let it go. He didn't expect the young man named Xianxia to be so powerful that he could kill Chen Meng directly and escape from his hands. Now that he finally gained a little trust from Xianxia, how could he leave at this time? But he couldn't ignore the urging of the Central Inscription Association. If they were really suspicious and sent people to investigate, everything he did and the young man named Xianxia would be exposed. If possible, Yu Mingqian didn't want Luo Qingtong to be discovered by the Central Inscription Association. The secret of the inscription of God on her body could only be his. Find something for the Central Inscription Association to do. His voice was casual and his fingers tapped on the table. The matter of the Immortal Slayer Palace hasn't been solved yet, right? It's said that my foster father has been tracking down the remnants of the Immortal Slayer Palace. It's time for them to show up. You guys go and arrange this. Yes. The group of men in black immediately bowed their heads and answered. Some people wanted to say something, but when they saw Yu Mingxuan's eyes, they immediately trembled and lowered their heads, not daring to speak again. Only one man in black, after receiving Yu Mingxuan's order, asked in a low voice, Master, this matter can only be put on hold for a while. When are you going to go back? The Central Inscription Association was not easy to fool. Even with the matter of the Immortal Slayer Palace outside, there was no way to fool the Central Inscription Association for too long. If the master didn't go back, sooner or later they would be suspicious. Well, after a while, Yu Mingxuan's face was indifferent. He thought of the scene when he stood in front of Luo Qingtong. He had almost won the other party's trust. At that time, he would be able to find a way to ask about the god's inscription. However, this matter could not be rushed. Of course, if he still couldn't gain the other party's complete trust, then he could only resort to extreme measures. No matter what, he had to get the news of the god's inscription. A cold light flashed in Yu Mingqian's eyes. Meanwhile, on the other side of Mercenary City, where Yi Qianxian and the others were staying, Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others had also found out the purpose of the Tianfeng Chu family's visit. Tianluo grass? Yi Qianxian looked at them. Yes, master. It's the Tianluo grass. As Feng Yu spoke, there was excitement in her eyes. Master, the appearance of Tianluo grass is very rare. Your meridians are severely damaged now. It's even worse than when you met the evil doctor. You can't use your full strength anymore. The existence of Tianluo grass can ease the injury of your meridians, so that your meridians will not continue to deteriorate. Master, the Tianfeng Chu family is now gathering mercenaries. Before they get the Tianluo grass, they will seal off Mercenary City, saying that they are investigating something. Chapter 2457. Feng Yu's words sounded a little cautious. Because Yi Qianxian used to hate people mentioning these things. His heavenly pulse body was destined to be incurable. He would die at the age of 28. Even if his life was temporarily extended, he would not exceed 30. This was the fate of generations of the heavenly pulse body, and so was he. Therefore, even if Yi Qianxian knew that there were many ways to slow down the deterioration of his meridians, he was too lazy to try them. After all, those things could only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. If he could not completely solve the problem of the heavenly pulse body, even if there were many ways to extend his life and slow down the deterioration of his meridians, what was the point of Yi Qianxian? He was destined to die. What difference did it make if he died sooner or later? However, Luo Qingtong's appearance changed everything. Yi Qianxian's meridians were strengthened. Therefore he was able to fight with all his strength this time. He broke through his defense and left Tiandu, angering the other party. However, because of this battle, Yi Qianxian's meridians, which had been repaired and strengthened by Luo Qingtong, fell again. Now they were not even 5% strong. They were even deteriorating and falling. Fortunately, after Elder Yu returned to Miracle Medical Valley, he gained some inspiration from Luo Qingtong and made some progress. He developed a new medicinal liquid and managed to stabilize Yi Qianren's broken meridians. Otherwise, Yi Qianxian might not even be able to stand here. Therefore, Feng Yu persuaded Yi Qianxian to get the Tianluo grass. After all, it contained the power of heaven and earth and was nourished by the great Tao. It was too rare. Master was not willing to waste time looking for the evil doctor to get those things. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were also very worried. Now that they finally got an opportunity and it was right in front of them, they naturally did not want to let it go. Master, do you agree? It won't delay the search for the evil doctor anyway. Moreover, the Tianfeng Chu family has made such a big fuss. If the evil doctor is really in the Tianfeng domain, he might have gotten the news from other places and joined them. As soon as Feng Yu said this, Yi Qianxian's eyes flickered. He looked at Feng Yu. What the latter said was not impossible. That woman was the most cunning and cunning. Although the Tianfeng Chu family kept their secrets well, that woman could even deceive him. She had deceived him more than once. So what if she dug out this little secret? All right. Yi Qianxian nodded. You guys go and make the arrangements. We will form a mercenary group and go over. Yi Qianxian did not intend to join any mercenary group. After all, he did not like to be bound by others. Moreover, his identity was too sensitive. If he joined other mercenary groups, it was inevitable that his identity would be investigated. At that time, it would easily arouse the suspicions of others. Yes. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others were wild with joy at Yi Qianxian's words. They originally thought that they would need more time to convince Yi Qianxian. They did not expect him to agree so quickly. Sure enough, no matter what it was, as long as they brought up the evil doctor, everything would be right. As long as it had something to do with the evil doctor, there was nothing that Master would not agree to. As the group thought this, they immediately went to make the preparations. In case Yi Qianxian changed his mind later. Among them, Bei Qing ran the fastest. He had been holding it in for a long time. When they arrived at the high-level abandoned continent that the Tianfeng Chu family had mentioned, he could be said to be liberated. However, in order not to attract the attention of others, their strength and cultivation were all sealed. They only lifted a little to adapt to the level of strength and cultivation in the Tianfeng domain. Otherwise, he would feel even better. But it did not matter. It was good to have a fight. The group ran quickly. Yi Qianxian stood outside the window and looked at the scene in Mercenary City with deep eyes. Chapter 2458. Qing. Yi Qianxian's figure appeared downstairs in an instant and grabbed the shoulder of the person in front of him. His strength was so great that the latter was forced to be pulled over by him. However, after seeing the other person's face, Yi Qianxian's eyes suddenly became cold and dim. The word Tong was in his mouth, but before it could be completely spat out, it had been swallowed back. It wasn't her. Yi Qianxian looked at the young man in front of him coldly and turned to leave, but he was stopped by the latter. Hey brother, why did you stop me just now? Luo Qingtong looked at the person in front of her with shining eyes. The other person was tall and his face was covered with a white jade mask. She didn't know why, but he gave her a very familiar feeling. He must have seen her somewhere before. Luo Qingtong wouldn't doubt her intuition. This person should have seen her somewhere before. Moreover, it wasn't just an ordinary person who knew him. It was very likely that they had fought before or something else. When Luo Qingtong stared at the mask on his face, Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. After glancing at Luo Qingtong with a complicated look, he said coldly, "Nothing." He flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. Yi Qianxian was very upset that he mistook Luo Qingtong for Luo Xiaoqi twice in a row. He didn't know if it was because he missed Luo Qingtong too much. or the way she dressed up as a man and wandered around the black field gave him too much room for imagination. Now that he thought about it, even if Luo Qingtong was Xieqi before, she might not dress up as a man after leaving Tianfeng Inscription City for safety reasons. Someone was watching her in the dark. For Luo Qingtong, dressing up as a woman was the best way to get rid of others. However, Yi Qianxian didn't know that Luo Qingtong really did think that way. However, who asked her to be so deceitful back then? She thought that Song Qing had summoned her because he had enemies. In order to avoid the enemies of the Immortal Slayer Palace, she changed her appearance. Currently, this large birthmark couldn't be restored. If she were to change back into a woman's clothing, that would only attract more enemies. Even if she returned to the true Spill continent in the future, she wouldn't be able to feel at ease. Thus, she had chosen to disguise herself as a young man. This way, when she regained her identity as a young girl in the future, she would be able to get rid of all these troubles. Just as Yi Qianxian was about to fling his sleeves away, Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her hand and grabbed onto his sleeve, refusing to let go. "Brother." Luo Qingtong smiled at Yi Qianxian and said, "It's said that a chance encounter is better than a chance encounter. Look at how fated we are. You didn't pull anyone but me on the street. I feel that the fate between the two of us is really predestined. Do you think we should be friends? My name is Luo Xiaoqi. What's yours?" Luo Qingtong talked nonsense all the way, but on the surface she was paying attention to Yi Qianxian. However, the latter's face was completely covered by the mask on his face. No matter how Luo Qingtong looked, she couldn't see his face. The other party's strength must be extremely strong, and this mask was certainly not an ordinary item. Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes weren't fake. If it wasn't an extremely powerful treasure or the other party's strength, ordinary things that could hide one's aura and face would be ineffective against her. But she couldn't see through the person in front of her. Chapter 2459. Luo Qingtong thought of the mysterious man who came to her room last night to investigate. The same mask, the same powerful strength. And when the other party grabbed her, he blurted out the word, "Qing." Right? What did he want to call her? Qingtong? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. One time wasn't enough. Did he want to test her twice? Luo Qingtong was very suspicious that this masked man was the mysterious man who came to investigate her identity last night. The other party still hadn't given up on suspecting her identity? He really didn't give up. Then she would accompany him to have some fun. Luo Qingtong thought so and looked at Yi Qianxian with a smile. The latter was irritated and didn't want to stay here any longer. He suddenly waved his sleeve and was about to leave. "I don't think we are fated to be together." Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. Fated to be fated? The other party really dared to say anything. Who was fated to be together with her? In his life, Luo Qingtong was the only one fated to be together with him. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian suddenly left. He didn't want to be entangled with the other party. Since it wasn't Luo Qingtong, there was no need to be entangled. What's more, the other party and Luo Qingtong resembled each other, which would only make him annoyed. "Hey brother, don't go." Luo Qingtong hurriedly grabbed the corner of his sleeve when he was about to leave. She already suspected that the other party was the mysterious man who investigated her identity last night. How could she let him leave so quickly? However, just as she spoke, she heard a tearing sound. Yi Qianren's expression was unsightly as he looked at his sleeves being torn from the elbow, revealing his smooth and muscular arm. "You." He looked at the youth in front of him with cold anger. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was also looking at the half-sleeve in her arms in a daze. Oh my god, she swore that she only used a little strength. How could she tear off the other party's sleeve? Puff. "Brother, the quality of your clothes is a bit poor." Luo Qingtong laughed dryly as she looked at the other party's cold and angry eyes and said. The latter snorted and didn't want to talk to her at all. What poor quality clothes? It was because when Yi Qianren was about to shake off Luo Qingtong, for some reason she suddenly felt an extremely irritated and unreasonable emotion. Then she fiercely pulled back the force she used to shake off Luo Qingtong, which was why her sleeves were torn. Yi Qianren attributed this to the resemblance between Luo Xiaoqi and Luo Qingtong. For some reason, when he saw the other party's eyes that were as cunning as Luo Qingtong's, he did not want to attack the other party. "Your sleeve." It turned out that Yi Qianxian didn't care about her at all. However, Luo Qingtong wasn't annoyed at all. Didn't want to talk to her? Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The smile on her lips was unusually evil and charming. Unfortunately, it's not up to you. Didn't he want to investigate her identity? She would let him investigate it properly. Luo Qingtong snorted and stuffed Yi Qianxian's sleeve into her arms. She was going to ask Gu Yifeng and the others to help investigate Yi Qianxian's identity when she went back. With the other party's appearance and characteristics, it shouldn't be difficult to find them in Mercenary City. And Mercenary City was now blocked by the Tianfeng Chu family. No one could go out. Chapter 2460. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately hummed a tune and rushed towards the pharmacy. He had just come out to buy medicinal herbs. Luo Qingtong didn't know what dangers she would encounter in this high-level abandoned continent, so she had to be prepared. She didn't want to fail miserably before she got what she wanted. After Luo Qingtong left, Yi Qianxian also returned to the inn where he was staying with a cold expression. Bei Qing and Feng Yu had just finished their business and came back. Seeing their master walking in like this, they were stunned. Everyone's jaws almost dropped to the ground. "Master, what's wrong with you?" Feng Yu and the others were fine. Although they were shocked, they didn't ask. However, Bei Qing, who was careless and insensitive, couldn't help but point at Yi Qianxian's exposed hand and ask, "What do you think?" Yi Qianxian looked at him with a dangerous expression. Before Bei Qing could finish speaking, Feng Yu covered his mouth. "Master, I suddenly remembered that the level of our mercenary group is too low. When we participate in the mission, we may be treated as cannon fodder. Then we may lose the opportunity to get the Tianluo grass. I'll go with Bei Qing to upgrade the mercenary group's level," Feng Yu said as he pulled Bei Qing and ran away. Bei Qing's mouth was covered by Feng Yu. He struggled for a long time as he was dragged away. Feng Yu, are you crazy? The two of us are going to upgrade the mercenary group's level. Don't you know that in order to upgrade a mercenary group's level, besides getting points from completing missions, you can also challenge stronger mercenary groups? You're challenging a mercenary group. Do you want the two of us to be beaten badly? One had to know that their strength and cultivation were still sealed. Bei Qing's eyes widened. He didn't know what Feng Yu was thinking. Feng Yu looked at him and didn't want to talk to him. The stupid husky. If he didn't say that, he would be sent by his master to deal with those mercenary groups. She really didn't know what to say, but she just had to talk about things that her master shouldn't ask. Sooner or later he would be killed by his carelessness. However, Feng Yu thought of Yi Qianxian's expression just now. It seemed that although her master's expression was angry and cold, but it seemed that there wasn't much hostility or killing intent. What was going on? Who was it that was able to provoke master to such an extent and yet remain unscathed? Feng Yu naturally knew that Yi Qianxian wasn't injured. If Yi Qianxian had made a move, his expression wouldn't be like this. It seemed that the master was simply angry. Strange, Feng Yu pondered as she dragged Bei Qing away. Yi Qianren, on the other hand, had a cold expression as she watched them leave. After Bei Qing and Feng Yu left, the others didn't dare to stay by his side. What a joke, when the master was angry, whoever was by his side would be unlucky. Didn't they see Bei Qing's miserable appearance? If Feng Yu hadn't acted quickly, he would have been even more miserable. Now the two of them were going to challenge those mercenary groups. Even if they only challenged some ordinary mercenary groups, it was enough to make them suffer. With this thought in mind, everyone immediately dispersed in tacit understanding. I remember that there are still some things that I haven't done. I have some too. Chapter 2461. The crowd ran away quickly, but Yi Qianxian didn't pay attention to them. He just took off his mask and looked at his bare arm with a cold expression. Since he was born, except for the time when he faced Luo Qingtong, he had never been so disheveled. That boy. Yi Qianxian sullenly thought of the way Luo Qingtong pulled his sleeve tightly at that time. If it weren't for the fact that she gave him the same feeling as Luo Qingtong, he would never let her go. Yi Qianxian crushed the white jade mask in his hand and replaced it with a new one expressionlessly. After Luo Qingtong returned to the Red Flame mercenary group after buying the medicinal materials, Yu Mingqian had learned from the members of the Red Flame mercenary group that Luo Qingtong was also going to participate in the mission of the Tianfeng Chu family. Tianluo grass? Thinking of the goal of the Tianfeng Chu family in Mercenary City, Yu Mingqian frowned slightly. That thing was useless to him. But Luo Qingtong's strength was so low. How could the Red Flame mercenary group let her participate in this mission? Didn't Guifeng always treat her as a little brother and love her? Yu Mingqian frowned. If Luo Qingtong participated in the mission this time, what should he do? Wait here for her? It didn't matter if it was before. But at this time his adoptive father had some doubts about him and was urging him to go back as soon as possible. In this case, it was a waste of time for him to wait for Luo Qingtong here. He couldn't even wait for her to come back. Who knew if she could come back alive in the end? Yu Mingqian frowned and listened to the description of the members of the Red Flame mercenary group. He knew that it was the Tianfeng Chu family who appointed Luo Qingtong to do the mission. His eyes were cold and his eyelashes fluttered gently, giving him a weak and helpless look. Then you go to participate in the mission. It was impossible for him to wait here for Luo Xiaoqi. However, he couldn't force Luo Xiaoqi to reveal the whereabouts of the divine inscription. The Tianfeng Chu clan wanted Luo Qingtong to participate in the mission, and Mercenary City had already been sealed off by the Tianfeng Chu clan. It was easy for Yu Mingqian to take action, but how to conceal her identity and take action was a problem. As he thought about it, he quickly came up with a countermeasure. He wanted to go to that high-level abandoned continent with the Red Flame mercenary group. At that time he would have plenty of chances to ask about the god's inscription. If they couldn't get any information out of him, it would be much easier for them to make a move. Not just that, but it was hidden so well that the people of the Central Inscription Association simply couldn't find it. As Yu Mingqian thought this, she said in a low voice, "I want to go with you." The members of the Red Flame mercenary group who were talking to him about participating in the mission didn't expect Yu Mingqian's answer at all. Can't be, right? They had told him all this in order to make him back off. After all, it was fine before. But now they were going to participate in the mission and Luo Xiaoqi was going with them, so it was definitely not suitable for him to go. The group discussed how to deal with Zhou Xian. In fact, they were quite sympathetic to his experience. But completing the mission was not like going on an outing. There were many dangers in the high-level abandoned continent. It was already very difficult for them to take care of Luo Xiaoqi, so it was certainly impossible for them to take Zhou Xian with them. So they could only tell him the truth, give him some money and let him leave after they left. But he actually said he wanted to go with them. Chapter 2462. Everyone dug their ears with all their might. A member of the Red Flame mercenary group looked at Yu Mingqian cautiously and said, "That Zhou Xian, this mission, you know about it, right? It's very dangerous. You'd better stay in Mercenary City. When the time comes, we'll give you a sum of money. You can live a good life in the future. That you don't have to go on an adventure with us. It's not suitable for you to go." Yeah. The other members of the Red Flame mercenary group also persuaded, "Zhou Xian, it's not that we don't want to take you. It's really not suitable for you to go. Even little Seven has no choice." That stinky old man from Tianfeng Chu's family was humiliated and couldn't bear it. That's why he insisted that little Seven must participate. "We don't know what kind of obstacles are waiting for us in the future. You'd better not go. We really can't take care of you." Yu Mingqian's current appearance was that of a helpless man who was even more useless than the average person. His skin was soft and tender, and he would be injured with just a slight touch, not to mention his fragile and sensitive personality. Although the members of the Red Flame mercenary group did not discriminate against him, they would not be stupid enough to follow him and let him complete the mission with them. They were all iron-willed straight men. Only Ouyang Yingyu liked the kind of character who was more manly than iron-willed straight men. There was no way she would fall in love with Zhou Xian just because of his elegant, noble and otherworldly image. She would not allow him to tag along just because of a casual remark. Besides, they didn't want to have such a burden. More importantly, they didn't want to be unable to protect Luo Qingtong well in the future because of such a burden. That was absolutely impossible. Therefore, everyone rejected him without even thinking about it. When Luo Qingtong saw Yu Mingqian looking at her, she laughed dryly and didn't say anything. She was actually quite happy that Zhou Xian couldn't go with them. After all, she had been pestered by him for the past few days. Her small illusion pill had a time limit. It would expire about once every half a month. Luo Qingtong couldn't grasp the specific time. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was troubled by Zhou Xian's appearance. But with the other party's background, if you said something a little harsh, he would think that you were looking down on him for being dirty. Luo Qingtong was speechless. In order to maintain the persona of Luo Xiaoqi, she had worked very hard. If it was her previous temperament, she would have sent him away long ago. It wasn't that troublesome. With that thought, Luo Qingtong looked at Gu Yifeng. The latter thought that Luo Qingtong was speaking up for Zhou Xian, so he immediately put down the dragon-slaying spear that he was wiping and looked at Yu Mingxian coldly. Impossible. We won't take you with us. Because we can't have a burden without help in the team. Gu Yifeng's words were extremely rude and hurtful. He had never liked Zhou Xian. He was too close to Luo Qingtong. Coupled with his original identity, Gu Yifeng had always wondered if he had ulterior motives towards Luo Qingtong. Once such an impression was planted, Gu Yifeng's attitude towards Zhou Xian couldn't be good. Even if Zhou Xian hadn't done anything out of line, Gu Yifeng was still worried. It was best to send him away now. Zhou Xian's face turned pale when he heard his words. Chapter 2463. I heard a lot about the various factions when I was with that person. Some of them are about the Flying Star region. I know all the information about the various aristocratic families there. If you take me with you, you'll have a lot of assurance when you complete the mission. At least you'll be more prepared to deal with the aristocratic family that's fighting with the Tianfeng Chu clan. Isn't that right? Gu Yifeng and the others were taken aback when they heard Zhou Xian's words. Especially Gu Yifeng. He frowned and asked Zhou Xian in a low voice, "Are you telling the truth?" If that was the case, bringing Zhou Xian with them would be a big advantage. After all, the Tianfeng Chu clan hadn't told them anything about the aristocratic family they were fighting with. In the eyes of those people, mercenaries like them were probably going to risk their lives for them. They didn't care about anything else as long as they had their lives. If Zhou Xian could provide them with information, they could avoid a lot of trouble. They could even protect Xiaoqi and leave safely. With that thought in mind, Gu Yifeng looked at Luo Qingtong. Zhou Xian looked over as well. His glassy eyes were fixed on Luo Qingtong. He nodded and said, "It's true. However, you also know that those days were a disgrace to me. If it wasn't for Xiaoqi, I wouldn't have." He didn't finish his sentence, but everyone understood what he meant. If it wasn't for Xiaoqi, he probably wouldn't have told them about it. This also explained why he hadn't mentioned it before. Everyone understood in their hearts and looked at him with a trace of sympathy. Yu Mingqian lowered his eyes. A cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. This was the best reason he could think of to join Gu Yifeng and the others on the mission. At the same time, it wouldn't arouse their suspicion. After all, wasn't it normal for him to know some secrets when he was by the side of that young master from a sect? As for the information about the aristocratic families in the Flying Star region, Yu Mingqian didn't lie to Gu Yifeng and the others. He was the junior president of the Inscription Association. Although he didn't know all the information about the various star fields and families, he still had a certain understanding of them. After all, if those people wanted to ask the Central Inscription Union to forge an inscription tool or something else, if they didn't provide information about their family members, how could they succeed in forging an inscription tool? Yu Mingqian wasn't worried that her words would be exposed once they reached the abandoned continent. When he lowered his eyes, Gu Yifeng nodded and said, "All right, then when the time comes, you will set off with us." After receiving his affirmation, Zhou Xian's eyes lit up. Then he looked at Luo Qingtong and said with a smile, "Little Seven, I can be with you again." "Really?" Haha. Luo Qingtong laughed dryly, not knowing what to say. Forget it, she would be more careful when the time came. Just try not to let Zhou Xian get too close. Luo Qingtong was not speechless for too long. 3 days later, the Tianfeng Chu family gathered everyone in Mercenary City and prepared to head to the high-level abandoned continent. Naturally, the people from the Heavenly Wind Chu clan were leading the way. The people in Mercenary City just had to follow. Chapter 2464. The man's face was covered by a white jade mask, which completely covered his extraordinarily handsome face. Not even a crack could be seen. Only a pair of cold eyes were hidden behind the white jade mask, making it impossible for anyone to see through him. Behind him was a group of people wearing white jade masks. They were tall and slender, like the direct descendants of a wealthy family. They were Bei Qing Fengyu and the others. These people who followed Yi Qianxian around were all outstanding members of their respective families. Just based on their strength and aptitude, they could instantly defeat all the geniuses in Tiandu, not to mention these mercenaries. Even though they had tried their best to conceal their auras, their temperament was still outstanding among the mercenary groups. When the group of mercenaries approached them, They unconsciously distanced themselves from them so as not to be outshone by others. After all, compared to Bei Qing and the others, this group of mercenaries was like clay chickens and pottery dogs. They were not presentable. Only the heavens knew that mercenaries looked at strength. Why were these people so handsome? No, it seemed like these people didn't even show their faces. Thinking of this, the group of mercenaries' faces turned green. This time, Tianfeng Chu's people sealed off Mercenary City and issued a mission. Many people from the various powers and families in the city were tempted by the news, and in an instant many mercenary groups popped up. Although Xianxia and the others were very conspicuous in the crowd, they didn't arouse too much curiosity. After all, the reward for this mission from Tianfeng Chu's people was very generous. In addition, there were many treasures and resources in that abandoned high-level continent. Anyone who didn't go would be a fool. Anyone who had the slightest idea would change their appearance and go. What was so strange about it? Everyone was well aware of this, and Tianfeng Chu's people wouldn't go out of their way to investigate. After all, the more people there were, the more power there was. As for what these people could gain there, it was up to them. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up when she saw Xianxia. She turned her eyes slightly and pulled Gu Yifeng and the others to where Xianxia and the others were. "Hey brother, what a coincidence. We meet again." She giggled as she patted Yi Qianren's shoulder. Of course, in the end she realized that the man was too tall and she couldn't hit him, so she changed to hitting his waist. "Pa." Yi Qianxian grabbed her hand through his sleeve and said coldly, "I don't think it's a coincidence." He also saw Luo Qingtong when she appeared. But because he was angry about what she had done, he didn't want to talk to her at all. He pretended not to see it. Yi Qianxian felt that he had spent too much time and attention on Luo Xiaoqi. And the other party was a young man. After his verification, it was impossible for him to be Luo Qingtong. Even if the other party gave him the impression of Luo Qingtong, that sly and cunning woman, he shouldn't pay too much attention to her. Love me, love my dog? This did not exist for Yi Qianxian. In this world there was only one Luo Qingtong. No one could replace her. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. After saying this, he suddenly raised his hand and shook Luo Qingtong's hand away. "Hey, why are you like this?" Hu Zhan and the others were enraged by Yi Qianxian's words. Xiaoqi came to greet him politely. Even if he didn't want to talk to her, he didn't have to talk to her like this, right?